And today we will start with new topic. And hold on, okay. Let me admit. Yeah, so we already started a recording. And we will start with new topic. So this is in, I believe it's in chapter 12. I'm not too sure, okay. So anyway, it's about exception. This is also a very good topic, okay, exception. And previously we saw the exception, the try-catch block in some of our examples. At that point, we didn't discuss, okay, now we will learn it and we will fully understand it. So the idea for exception is sometimes, you know, not every time a program can be run perfectly, is it? If the program has some bugs in it, is it? So when the program runs into an error, is it? Especially at runtime, is it? We call that a runtime error. It's not at compile stage. It's a runtime. There's some error occurs, and then in that case, a lot of time the program will terminate abnormally. Abnormally, is it? And that will not give user, or we call client, some good experience, is it? And you want the app runs smoothly. In case there is an error, it can continue to run, or so either continue to run even though there is error, is it, at runtime, or terminate gracefully. Gracefully. Is it? That's what we expect, is it? So how do we achieve this goal? Okay, and exception can provide help in this regarding. Okay, so that's the concept here. Okay, then let's first take a look at example. Then we will see a lot of concepts. And just a minute, so someone may not turn off your audio. If you haven't, please turn off your audio, okay? Because otherwise there's some noise. So let's take a look at this example. So in this example, we first do scanner, is it to try to from keyboard. So this is you try to, so in this example, we create a scanner object, we call it input, is it? And this is from standard input, is it from keyboard, system.in, is it? And what next it expect you to do is expect two integer number, is it? Expect two integer number, number 1 and number 2. And then I'm trying to do what? To do division. Is it to do division? And of course, we know, is it when you do division, you cannot divide by 0, is it? So if number 2 is 0, the program will run into problem, is it? So it will cause runtime error, is it? So let's see what that happens. First, I need to uncomment this part of our code and save it, and then run, okay. So right, ask me to enter two integer number. The first suppose I enter is 9. The second one, I enter 0. Did you see it just give you some of this? You see, if you're a user, then you have no clue. Is it what all of this mean? Is it will bring the bad application experience? Is it? So that's not what we would like, is it? So for sure, if you design a very simple app and do something like this, that's so if we put that app in the app store, then definitely it will got a bad rate, is it? So that's not a good design, is it? So then you may say, how about let's get some way to fix it. So the first option we fix is because over here, when you design the program, you forget to check, is it? Because when you divide something, you cannot divide by 0, is it? You cannot divide by 0. So we can do this kind of checking, is it? Oh, if it is not, then you do division. Otherwise, you're going to do something else. Over here it says, oh, divisor cannot be 0, is it? Then you said, okay, I'm continue do something else, is it? So let's see how this going to work. This is your CS1 stuff, so that should be easy, is it? Okay, I enter 9, then I enter 0 again. So this time you say, oh, it tells you divisor cannot be 0, is it? And it's ready to do something else, is it? But because we didn't do anything else, so it's just stop, is it? But we can see this is much better, is it, compared with this case, didn't do any check. So this is, you do some check, is it? So this is good. And it fulfills for this division's purpose, this perfectly fine. This is perfectly fine. But a lot of times when you write your application, is it? Write your application, some of the tasks you may provide it in some method, is it? In some method. So in this case, we are going to do the division in a method, we call it a quotient. Is it call it a quotient? And then let's take a look at the quotient method. So this is our quotient method. It takes 2 numbers, is it? And if the divisor is 0, what it does is it calls system.exit. So the program will what? Will exit. It will not continue, is it? Otherwise, it will do the division, is it? Division. So let's take a look at this scenario. Okay, where is it? We call quotient here. Okay. Let's comment out this part. Okay, then let's run this program again. Okay, then I enter 9, I enter 0. Did you see the program just exit? Is it? It tells you divisor cannot be 0. Is it? Okay, so that serves some purpose. Is it? But you still, for user, the using experience, is it? It's not great, is it? The application just abruptly terminated, is it? A lot of time you don't want that happen, is it? You want your program have some way to give you some hint about the problem that you can continue to work, is it? So this didn't fulfill the our goal, is it? Okay, so we can comment out this. And then try to take a look at the next one. And for the next one here, we define another method. We call it quotient 2 method. So first, let's take a look at this quotient 2 method. So in this quotient 2 method, if you take a look, there's something new that we never see, is it? Anyway, this is a class method. Method name method return type. This means it's a class method, it's a public, it's a parameter list. After that, be careful, it has a clause called throws and arithmetic exception. Okay, so this statement over here, throws exception, what does this statement fulfill? It said, okay, regarding this method declares an exception. Okay, declares an exception. And you throws this exception, is it? So where the program throws that exception? Okay, so here it says, okay, if the divisor is 0, I'm going to throw, be careful, this is throw, not S, okay? As throw, then you call new arithmetic exception. Okay, so it throws an exception object, basically, because we have new, is it? And this is the type of exception. And this type of exception, it's in the group called arithmetic exception. Okay, so this type of method we have never see that, is it? But anyway, so this method throws the exception, is it? And here you declare that exception with the throws, okay, keyword. And in the implementation of your method, then you throw a corresponding exception object with new, okay, with new. And over here, it also has a comment that the arithmetic exception is called unchecked exception. Okay, unchecked exception. So generally speaking, exception, there are two categories, checked and unchecked. And the checked, you must have try-catch block to deal with it. For unchecked, it's not mandatory. Okay, later on we will see that. But anyway, okay, so here it just said Java does not mandate you to write code to catch unchecked exception. Okay, so you're not obligated to catch this exception. But if it is checked, then you got, okay. And later on we will also see what does that mean. You must check, you must catch it or not, okay. So then let's see. So quotient 2 is a throw exception, is it? And declare exception is throw exception, is it? And because the method throws exception, is it? And here we design the try-catch block to catch the exception. And the exception is thrown by what? Is thrown by a method. Okay, so that method throws an exception. Okay. So then let's see here. I will comment out this. So try catch block. Okay. So let's take a close look. Before we learn try catch, before we learn exception. So this is normal. Okay, you're going to call quotient method, etc. And the result will be stored in an integer variable, and then you do system, etc. So this is regular, nothing wrong here, etc. And then you call, okay, ready to do another task, etc. But over here, if you take a look, you have this try keyword and the curly brackets, and then you have the matching catch, okay, and the curly brackets, okay, curly bracket. So this we call it try catch block. Catch block. And generally your task, the task you normally, so if your program supposed to run normally, is it the statement? Then you can put them in the try block. Is it try block? So if it runs smoothly, so it will run this first statement and then second statement. Is it? So that means if number 2 is not 0, is it will run this statement, run this statement. Okay, temporarily, let's forget about this. Then it will run to what? Run to this statement. So it will run from the try block to whatever after the try, or whatever the next. Is it? But number 2 may be 0. Is it? When number 2 is 0, you remember that quotient 2 method said what? It throw that new arithmetic exception. Is it? Throw that exception. Is it? Because it's throw exception, that's why you need to have, you must have this catch block. Okay, you must have this catch block to catch the corresponding exception, arithmetic. This arithmetic is raised by this quotient 2 method. Is it? It throws by that quotient 2 method. Then you catch it. Is it? You catch it, we'll say, oh, catch the exception. Is it? And if you want to know the detailed information about exception, you can just do the print line. Is it? It will output whatever the exception. And here you can also, anyway, so this is called a block. Is it? Block, when we see a block, it's always within a curly brackets. Is it? So you can put a lot of statements within the block statement also. Is it? So here it said, whenever something wrong happens, what you want to do to deal with, is it? Then you can put them in the catch block. Okay, so this is the concept of try catch block. So the syntax is try with the curly pair of curly brackets, and then whatever the statements within it, is it the body, and then you need to have catch, but be careful. After catch, you have the parentheses, okay? And within the parentheses, you need to provide the exception, the name of the exception, okay? And then it will catch it, and then we'll do something, okay? Then let's take a look at the running of this program, okay, to get a feeling of it. Okay, this time we are going to run, as if we have 9, then we have 0. Did you see here it, because the number 2, the divisor is 0, is it? Here it says catch and exception. It says, oh, integer cannot be divided by 0, is it? And that exception is what? It's java.len.arithmetic exception, is it? And it's said, okay, I'm ready to do something else, is it? So with this type of arrangement, we can see you have good experience when the arrow comes, is it? Give you clear idea about what's going on so that you won't be kind of get a panic. Is it a virus or something? Is it you will not? Is it? So you will have some good user experience here. Is it with this try catch block? Okay, so we call this try and catch block. But here, a couple of things we needed to be clear is the quotient 2 method throws an exception, because that method, when we define throws an exception, that's why you can use this try catch. Here, if I do something, let's change it. Okay, let's go back to take a look at our method. So we have quotient. This is a regular quotient, is it? Just deal with. And we have this quotient 2, a throw exception. Okay, let's go back, take a look at this. So this quotient 2 throws the exception, arithmetic exception, is it when it will throw it a certain condition, not always, okay, throw the exception. And then let's see, if I do something like this, is it, if I just do integer result equals quotient, is it, and then what let CS just split it, okay. So it looks like, let's just see, okay, the quotient method doesn't define a exception, through exception, is it? But anyway, we put it in the try-catch block, and that's also try to run, is it? And then 9, and then 0. And here it also says divisor cannot be 0, is it? Divisor cannot be 0, where it is? Divisor cannot be 0. It comes from where? Comes from this quotient, is it? But quotient, it exit, is it? It exit. And if we comment out this, then let's see what's going to happen. This program, is it? That's the original program. Quotient, is it? Then let's run it. And then we have 9, we have 0. Is it? And it's a divisor cannot be 0, is it? And here it also said catch exception, and integer cannot be divided by 0, is it? And it also said, okay, Java lang arithmetic exception, is it? It also gives us that related kind of arithmetic exception, is it? But if you take a look, the quotient method itself also didn't define it, is it? But we put it in the try-catch block. It can also catch that exception, because that exception is because of the arithmetic exception, is it? Arithmetic. So it doesn't mean, because some of the exception it caused, like in this case, arithmetic exception is because of the divisor by 0. Is it? So even though your method didn't define it, if you put it in the try-catch block, implicitly it can also be caught. Is it? So it's still deals quite cleanly, is it, with the try-catch block, okay? So this is the our second way to deal with the exception. Okay, then let's take another look. So we understand the try and the catch. Try and catch, is it? But here we also have something we call it what? Finally, is it? So if you recall the running result, we are always have this clean up the division, is it? No matter it has exception or doesn't have exception, is it? So this finally block, so we call this finally block, is it? And it's also quite useful, is because it can what? It will take care of, it can take care of dealing with some of the work. Generally, we call it closing work. So something maybe you didn't realize, is it, between the try and the catch block, then everything will go here and be deal, is it? So generally speaking, we call it some closing work. Okay, so that's whatever finally. So no matter it's try, no matter if it's catch block got picked or not, okay. And also we need to be careful as with try-catch block, if everything is okay, so only try block will be wrong, is it? And then it won't run, so catch block will be skipped. Okay, so if everything is okay, okay, and if there is some exception, so if something wrong here, is it? Then the exception will be caught by what? By the catch block. Okay, so if there is the exception, then it will be caught by catch block. That's how it works. Okay, so the catch block not always wrong. Okay, not always wrong. So that's the concept. And also be careful is, so here this exception, it throw arithmetic exception. Okay, and you catch this exception, is it? So both match. Then this block will run, is it? And over here, if you don't catch it, arithmetic, suppose you catch it out of index, index out of range. I don't remember exactly. Okay, so index, suppose it's called index out of range exception. Then this exception doesn't match whatever throw, is it? So it will still not be wrong. Okay, so your code won't go to the non-matching exception. So even though you think, oh, I provide a try-catch block, why it's still, the program still terminated abnormally? That's because your exception doesn't match. So whenever you do the try-catch block, you also need to make your exception match with each other. Okay, so that's another key concept here. Okay, we understand this try-catch block in this example cases. And then next, let's see. Here it says doesn't provide try-catch block, is it? Even though our quotient 2 method throws exception, is it? Here it says Java does not mandate you to write to catch the unchecked exception. So let's take a look. What does that mean? Is it? So this time we call the quotient 2 method, is it? And if you recall, quotient 2 throws arithmetic exception at a certain condition, is it? Okay, then let's run and see the result. So we have 9, then we have 0, is it? Then did you see, even though your program throws the exception, is it? But you didn't provide try-catch block, so it will give you some weird thing, is it? And it will not make a user feel friendly, is it? User experience will not be a good, because user cannot understand what those output is it? So, but here anyway, it says it's not mandatory. You need to put a try-catch block, is it? If the method throws exception, is it? Yeah, so here it's just shows the other option. So it's just not a good design here. And then let's see, what's the quotient 3 do? Is it? It's a quotient 3 only throw exception, but doesn't declare exception, is it? It uses, so what will it do, is it? So let's uncomment this out. section out. And then let's take a look at quotient 3. So if we took a look at quotient 3, is it? So it's over here, the method signature. It's exactly the same as what we learned before without exception. There's nothing new. And it's just within the method body. Is it at a certain condition it says, oh, it will throw the exception. Is it through the exception? Okay, and here it says, because this exception is unchecked, then Java does not mandate you to write code to declare the unchecked exception. Okay, so anyway, in this arithmetic exception cases, because this exception is unchecked, so over here, you don't need to provide that throws arithmetic exception. You don't need that statement, okay? And over here, you throw that new exception. That is also fine, okay? That's what this part means. Okay, then let's see. This try-catch block, almost the same as what we do for the quotient 2, is it? Nothing new here, exactly the same. And let's try to run to see how it performs, 9 and 0. Did you see? It performs exactly like a quotient 2. Is it like a quotient 2? So here it just says, but be careful, this is for unchecked exception, okay, because arithmetic exception is unchecked. So that's why you will also be able to do something like this, okay? So this is our general idea about exception for today's, okay? Let's see, we can have a quiz, okay? We can have a quiz. The quiz question going to be, okay, so let's just regarding this example. So in your quiz, this is the first quiz question, you needed to answer in our example, in this example, after the catch, within the catch, what we write? Is it? So can you just write the whole statement here? Catch. So let's get familiar with this catch. How do we write a catch? Okay. And suppose you can write a catch and whatever, and then curly brackets, is it? So that's a catch block. Can you write it? And let's see, chat question. Yeah, the first question. No, Gary, you didn't answer. Oh yeah, you answered, yeah, very good. So you all just send it to our chat question. What should you write for the catch? We only have 6. Only 6 of you answered. We totally have 16 students here. Can everyone, would you please send your chat, send your quiz question to our chat? The second question, and we still have 6 of you not send your question to the chat. You need to know how to write the catch statement. So write a catch and then what? So some of you still didn't send your answer to the chat group. We still have 5 of you not answer. And the second quiz question. Second question, we learned the exception, is it? And the before exception, and we said there are 2 types. The arithmetic is unchecked. Is it? There's another type called checked exception. Okay, so the second chat question, so you please write number 2. Okay, the quiz question is the 2 types of exceptions. What are the 2 types of exceptions? And we already learned unchecked. Oh no, we learned unchecked, sorry. And we will learn the next one. The 2 types of check, the 2 types of exception. Okay, so that's all regarding our arithmetic part, the division, divide by 0 example. Okay, next let's take a look the other case. So this time we are going to deal with file. And if we finish everything today, then tomorrow we will start to discuss file I/O, okay? So anyway, so here we said, oh, we have a function called getFruit. Okay, so let's take a look at that getFruit method. So here we have a method called getFruit, is it? And the parameter is the file name, okay? And if you take a close look, you will find this method also throws what? It says file not found exception, is it? What we did in this method is it to create a file. And don't worry about this, okay, later on we will learn. So it associate a file name, is it, with a file object, is it? But a lot of time, whenever you mention a file, the file may not exist, is it? So here it says if the file doesn't exist, you're going to throw an exception. What is this exception? Exception is file not found exception. Okay, and within it is will give you the file name. Okay, and then okay, the file not found. Which file not found? Is it? If the file does exist, then we are going to do scanner. And you can see this time the scanner is not reading from keyboard, is it? Scanner can also read from a file, is it? And then you're going to get whatever in the file, is it? And have every of their strings be returned, is it? And then I'm going to try to have that integer number from the 4th string, is it? We can take a look. So this is that fruit file, is it? So it is a fruit apple amount 99, is it? And then fruit orange amount 85. So a very simple plain text file, is it? And what this function try to do is just try to get what? To get the first line, is it? To get this first line and get this 99, get this number out. That's what it's supposed to do. Okay, temporary, you don't need to worry. Later on, we will learn more detail about this. And so, but just like I explained, file may not exist, Is it file may not exist? Okay, before we go to the main, so I have a couple of things to explain. And for the file exception, it comes from the java.io package. Okay, and then you have the file not found exception. So you need to import it. Okay, import it. And same thing for the file, okay, if we want to use. And then let's see here. If you take a look, this line, is it? And if we take a look here, it shows an error, is it? So this program cannot be compiled. And what it says, the error report says unreported exception, file not found exception. I said it must be caught or declared to be thrown. So this scenario is different. You remember for the quotient 2. Quotient 2, if you take a look, quotient 2 throws exception. Is it? Our get fluid also throws exception. But for quotient 2, where is it? For quotient 2, if I uncomment that out, you will see it's perfect, this line. Is it? The program didn't report that there is an error here. Is it? But for our get fluid, you cannot run this Java file because here is an error. Is it? It won't work. It cannot work. Okay, so here this shows. This is what? This is because. Okay, arithmetic exception is unchecked exception. Okay, unchecked exception. And then let's see. This file not found exception, this is a checked exception. And because it is checked exception, you must deal with it. You cannot just leave it there. Okay, if the method throws this exception, so must be dealt. So must be handled. You cannot leave it alone. Okay, it must be handled. Okay, so that's why it complains. Okay, over here it complains. And that's why also over here it didn't complain. Okay, it didn't complain. Okay, then next, let's see. Let's just comment this part out. And then because here is an arrow, it won't work. So let's comment out. Let's try case 7. Okay, if I uncomment for the case 7, then looks like it didn't complain anymore. Is it? After you put the get fluid in the try block, and you have the corresponding catch block, then it works. Is it? It works. And we don't have this file. Is it? This file also doesn't exist. Is it? Because we only have fluids text. We don't have that file. But did you see it didn't complain here? Is it? It didn't complain. Okay, and let's try to run it. Okay, here it still asks us to. And here, did you see it just catch that exception? Then it says, okay, this specific file, is it cannot be found? Is it? Here it says it also specifies the file name, is it? That's because over here you have the catch block, is it? Deal with it. So checked exception, it must be handled. Okay, it must be handled. So that's the difference between checked exception and unchecked exception. Okay, so that's going to be our third quiz question today. Okay, can you, so in your quiz, please answer the difference between arithmetic exception and file not found exception. What's the major difference between these two? I don't mean that what they handle. I mean the category. Are there any differences between these two exceptions? Arithmetic exception, the file not found exception.
Wouldn't arithmetic be unchecked and file not found be checked?
Yeah, very good. Okay. So that's the third quiz question. So please write it and send it to our chat. Okay, let me scroll up to see if we have, yeah. So I have it here. Is it arithmetic exception and file not found exception? So in your quiz, you need to state what's the categorical difference between these two exceptions. Everyone already sent your answer to the chat? Okay, we only have 1 minute, so anyway, so let's stop sharing. Okay.